Hello, hello, I'm Trudy, One Grounded Angel. This is the weekly angel card reading video for the week starting Monday, the 31st of May through to the 6th of June 2021. We're almost at the midpoint of the year. I know, it's a lot. And last week was a lot. So hopefully with that lunar eclipse energy starting to dissipate, you're starting to maybe feel a little bit more on an even keel, I guess, emotionally. I certainly am. Monday's card, your children are watched over by angels. Now, this card has come up at least twice in the past sort of month or so. When a card is repeated, it's because we really, really need it emphasized to us. So maybe there are some of you who are still not getting this message, or maybe it's just that it's come up again. Maybe some of you need to go on at a deeper level with this one, and I'll explain that in a minute. So the card is about your children. It could be that they're grown up children, that letting you know they are being watched over by angels. So they are safe. They are safe. That's really important for you to know that. So if you are particularly worried about a situation or a child, then this is going to give you reassurance. But if this keeps coming up for you, you might like to look at what's going on in your relationship with your child or children. Are you overprotective? Are you projecting your anxieties onto them? Are you codependent? Maybe that's where the work is to be done. I feel because this keeps getting repeated that it's more than just that surface layer of giving you the reassurance. There's something going on here that you might like to look at in terms of your relationships with your children. Now, if like me, you don't have children, this could be about a child in your life that you have a good relationship with, niece, nephew, cousin, friend's kid, whatever it is. Or it could simply be about you as the child. We're all children of the universe. I know I say that all the time, but I think we all need to be reminded of that constantly, and letting us know that we're being looked after. So maybe you're the one who needs to remember that you're safe. And maybe you need to look at, why do I not feel safe? What's going on in my life that is making me feel I'm not safe? And what am I going to do about that? Am I choosing to have relationships of some sort with people who I sense I can't trust? Maybe I need to look at why I'm not setting boundaries there. Or am I not feeling safe because I've got a situation where I don't know what it's like to feel safe, so I'm constantly worried about things going wrong. If that's the case, you need to talk to someone about, well, my advice would be talk to someone about energy healing, because that suggests to me, as an energy healer, there's something going on deep in your energy, some wounding around, that idea of you feeling safe in the world or not feeling safe in the world, more to the point, that needs some healing. So Tuesday's card is beautiful, starting fresh, lovely illustration here. It says a wonderful new beginning is blossoming in my life. Now, we did have Sunday's card was all about endings. I love how the endings card often come pretty close to a beginning card coming up. And that's because we're going for a new cycle. This happens all the time. It doesn't necessarily get better for us, though. A lot of us are really find it really challenging to open up to new beginnings, or to more specifically to embrace the endings, because they can be really painful, and often we don't know what those new beginnings are going to look like or when they're going to appear, so sometimes it can be really challenging for us. So this is about letting you know, first of all, that you have permission to start afresh. You do not have to be beholden to the story that you were telling about yourself 10 years ago, 5 years ago, when you're a kid, whatever. Sometimes clients will work with me and say, I've got a new career that I want to start, but I always said I was going to do this career that I'm doing now since I was a kid, since I was a teenager. I studied for it, I've invested years into it. I don't feel like I can walk away from it now because I'm too invested in it. And I always say, you have permission to walk away. You're not beholden to that story. You don't have to stick with that. You made those choices because they were right for you at the time, and now they're not. So now you get to start again, and no one is going to look down on you for that, or they shouldn't. And if they do, that's probably more about them. Maybe they've got some sort of change that they're resisting within themselves. So you are allowed to start afresh in any area of your life, and make sure that the person who's standing in the way isn't you, because sometimes we blame other people and say, people wouldn't like it if I did this, but actually it's more about us. We're trying to make excuses not to do it because it's uncomfortable. Wednesday's card is action. These two, I often use these two card decks together. They're both by Denise Linn, and they often answer each other in a way. So this is telling you what you need to know, and this is sort of telling you how you need to do it in a way. If that resonates, you might like to think of it in that way. So the action is sort of lighting a fire under you to get started on what it is that you know you need to you need to change. The message says, I step into my glorious future with determination and power. So yet, very empowered message here. What is it you need to take action on that you're not doing? What's stopping you from doing that? Is it fear? If so, how are you going to work through that? Is it procrastination? Well, procrastination is actually just fear. So what is it you're afraid of? What is stopping you from doing this? Does it seem too hard? Why does it seem too hard? And what's stopping you from just starting the bit that you can do now? You don't have to be put off by the scale of the change if it's huge. Just chip away at things a bit at a time, but do not do nothing. This is advising you against stagnancy. Now, we are in a Mercury retrograde, and that is a time when typically we feel that the universe has put the brakes on us. I spoke about this in last week's reading. If that's the case for you, then maybe you might like to not actually take the action right now, but figure out what your action steps are going to be when the brain fog has started to ease and when you get a sense the time is right to move forward. Yeah, this can be a time of rest for a lot of people, so it's okay if you don't want to step forward right now, but don't delay it for too long. Mercury retrograde is only a couple of weeks, by the way. It's not a game ender at all. Thursday's card is Faith. I love the image here. This is an angel literally on the precipice leaning forward. So faith is a tricky one because often as human beings we want guarantees. We want to know that things are going to be okay. If I know that this is going to work out for me, then I'll go ahead with it. If I know that this first date is going to lead to a happy marriage, I'm going to continue to go out with this person. Unfortunately, we don't get those guarantees. We are called to have faith. That's a hard thing to do if you've been burnt. It's also a hard thing to do if you have some anxiety or control issues. If that's you, again, I would look at energy healing as well as therapy to help you with that. This card reminds you that you don't need to know how the story is going to play out in order to move forward. Faith is about taking the first step, even though we can't see the whole staircase. I say that again and again. It's never not relevant in my humble opinion. So having the faith that things will be okay. Now, this does not give you permission to take silly risks. If you know you sense that things are not going to go well, don't think, oh well, I'll just take a step and the universe will work it out for me. We have to be willing to, we have to be grounded. So we have to listen to our intuition, but also be in our human selves. There is a quote that I took a screenshot on my phone of years and years ago saying, jump and the net will appear. And I was like, yes. And I kept it because I soon found out that was not true at all. And it might seem like a reason to delete it, but the reason I kept it is because it reminds me of how spirituality is often, and I'm all for making things simple, but sometimes spirituality is distilled down to such a granular level that it no longer actually is true. And there are times, I'm sure, when all you need is to be brave and move forward and things will work out, and that has happened to me in my life as well. But often we need to move slowly and we need to be actually mindful of what's going on. I'm thinking of a situation many years ago where someone I met told me that they had gone on a date with someone and it had gone so well that they had immediately packed up their life and moved in with this person after one date. and I'm listening to this going, And as you might imagine, after a couple of months, it didn't work out. Now, that's not a criticism on that person, but what it is a commentary on is the fact that when we are so afraid that things aren't going to work out for us, we're willing to jump in any direction because we are terrified that if we do nothing, things are not going to work out for us. So that is not following your intuition, that's acting out of fear, even though, and that person was guided by the belief that I have to do something, and the belief that, fortune favors the brave. So, and there's lots of ways that Hollywood romanticizes these big displays of grand gestures and really romantic things that people do, really crazy risks that people take in love and how they often work out. But in the real world, that's not necessarily the case. In the real world, relationships often evolve slowly, and that's absolutely fine. And that's not a commentary on fast-paced relationships, which are also fine. But what it's saying is if you are overriding, because if that person had sat back and listened to their intuition, they probably wouldn't have made that move. And that's not to say they made a mistake, but it is saying we need to be grounded enough in reality and not just jumping to keep moving without actually stopping to think, is this right for me? And another example, I guess, would be people who might be in a company and a promotion of comes up, and so they apply for it because everybody else is applying for it. They don't stop to think, is this actually the role that I want? They worry they'll be left behind, and they are operating from a space of, this is just what you do. You just go to the next stage, so I'm going to apply too. And then they'll get to the interview and the questions are so invasive, and they realise, actually, I can't give a good answer to these because I don't actually want this job. Or they won't, I don't know. Again, just an example. But the point I'm trying to say is that faith is really important, but we also have to not only have faith, but be willing to operate from a space of, is this right for me? And really step into our intuition to do that. Do the self-reflection work. We can't just go, bravery will figure everything out. Bravery means big reward. Big risks are big rewards. So faith is just a part of the puzzle there. That was a massive word vomit. I hope it made sense to you. I feel like I talked in circles there. Hopefully my point came across there. So Friday's card is compassion, and compassion can be directed towards yourself in this case, or it might be towards other people. And obviously there's a correlation between the two. It might be that you are struggling to have compassion for other people because there's a lack of compassion for yourself. It can be, there was a Instagram post I shared last week, the quote being, if I'm unable to cut myself slack, then offering empathy to you will feel like coddling. You can look that up on my Instagram if you want to see that. It's at One Grounded Angel. It wasn't my quote. I just reposted and shared my own thoughts on it. It's hard to have compassion for other people if we don't also have compassion for ourselves, is what that's all about. So look at where there might be some compassion required here. Maybe that you're in a conflict or a tension situation, and the way to move forward with it is to have compassion for the other person. That is not saying that you just let the people get away with bad behaviour, but it is saying that you need to understand where they're coming from. That's all that's about. And try not to get into a blaming situation, because that doesn't help. Sometimes we need to, the way to move forward is to see what that person's going through. Also take action to make sure that you're being protected and that you're not tolerating bad behaviour, but not to get in this, they did this, they did that, and then you get into that kind of angry sort of energy that can take a while to dissipate. And anger can be helpful, of course, but we don't want to stay in it for very long, because that's when it starts to get a little corrosive. So yeah, having compassion for other people. And I'm feeling that I may, at this point, need to offer some compassion to people who may be in the situations that I just shared. Now, I gave examples. I was painting with very broad brush strokes. But if I've described a situation that is resonating for you, I want you to know that my comments are not a criticism of you or the choices you've made. They're just trying to illustrate how wounding can influence the way we act. And my job as a healer is always, firstly, to offer empathy, and then secondly, to help people gently, usually, to figure out what's going on that has influenced those choices so that they can heal. And there are times when I do need to be a little less subtle than others. But when we're operating in this space, we always need to start with empathy for people. That's not always easy to do, so I do apologise if any of those examples have hit a little close to the bone. Now, listen, that's not an instruction, that's the card. That's Saturday's message. That's related to compassion as well, listening to other people rather than operating from our own perception of what we think is going on. And there is often the comment made that relationships would be significantly improved if we could do more listening than we do speaking. And I think also with listening, we often have to listen to what's not being said as well as what is being said, which sounds weird. That's about listening to your intuition, which is often telling you this person is saying that they're fine, but my intuition tells me they're not fine. So I'm going to ask some more questions and sit with them a while longer. This is also about you listening to your intuition, about what it is that you need to work on, what's coming up for you, and what you're being guided to change or to address in your life. Pretty straightforward message there. And going now to Sunday. It's quite an interesting combination we've got here. Okay, we've got two cards. Firstly, we've got Shanti. And this is the Angel of Peace, and this is all about bringing you, I guess, some reassurance. Always welcome on a Sunday. Always welcome every day, actually, but particularly on a Sunday. And it says, I bring you new tranquility and a smoother road ahead. So I would take that as a message that things are going to be a little bit more gentle. Now, with the retrograde, with all that harsh eclipse energy, some of you may be feeling provoked and a little bit tender, shall we say. So maybe this message of letting you know that smoother times are ahead would be pretty welcome. We've also got here a card called Desiree, and this is about asking you to pause. So what I said before, it rings true for this. It says conditions aren't favourable now, looking into other options. So doing some more research before you move forward. And as I may have said in the past, Mercury retrograde typically isn't a good time for moving forward with new plans, unless you go thoroughly over the details. So what this card will be saying is don't rush into anything. No knee-jerk reactions right now. No following the crowd. Actually stopping to think about, what do I want? Is this right for me? And maybe it's not right for me, actually. Maybe I've just been following blindly what other people have been doing, which is very easy to do. That's certainly not a bad thing, but sometimes we need to sort of snap ourselves out of that autopilot mode and go, what do I actually want? What's right for me? And remember that it's okay to be different. In fact, it's good. It's even better to be different, I would say. Okay, how do I sum this up? That message of pausing and reflecting is coming up pretty strongly. New beginnings, and really this action card and faith sort of sitting quite complementary to each other. Moving forward with our plans if that feels right for you. But again, this card is suggesting you don't do that too quickly, and that you don't rush into anything, and that you make sure that it's really what you want. But making sure we're not staying too stagnant with some of the stuff that we have known for some time that we need to heal. Now, to address the obvious, it does seem like there's a conflict going on between this and also this, the action and the no, the yes and the no, I guess. So you have to use your intuition to figure out which one applies to you. Now, I'm very sorry that there is not a simple formula here. You've probably figured out by now that life doesn't work like that. If you're older than your 30s, you would certainly have figured out that life doesn't have a rule book, and that unfortunately there isn't a code to crack here. I know that's frustrating for the control freaks as well, of which I'm a Scorpio, so that's certainly me. But there are some things in which you do need to take action, and maybe those are things that are gentler, like having more compassion, engaging in those meaningful conversations. And there are things that, no, it's not the right time. Even though the starting afresh is coming up, maybe it's not time to move ahead with a new beginning now. Maybe you can still be in a mode of planning for the new beginning, figuring out what your action steps are going to be. Now, it's up to you what you do with this. If you are really struggling at the moment, first of all, know that it may be the retrograde, giving us a bit of brain fog, particularly if you are a Gemini or a Virgo. Soz about that. But sometimes also we need a little bit more personalised guidance. So if that's you might like to reach out to me for a personal reading. You can do that at my website, www.onegroundedangel.com. And I do combine readings with healings, which can also help with the areas you're getting stuck in, help bring you through the clearing and the healing around that. And you can also, as I mentioned, my Instagram is at OneGroundedAngel, so you can follow me there, or you can follow me on Facebook, One Grounded Angel as well. Hope this has been helpful. I hope I haven't utterly confused you, and I look forward to seeing you again with lots of compassion and lots of tenderness next week. Take care, everybody.